It's our segment on Wake Up Central where we continue to answer your questions big and small. Our question this morning comes from Bobby in Heber Springs. Now, he wants to know if he could actually be arrested for not wearing his life jacket on his boat. Well, Bobby, that is a great question.
So you want to make sure to inspect your life jackets before you head out. Make sure there's no tears, holes, that they fit properly.
Aaron Jimenez is a public affairs specialist with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Little Rock Division. Jimenez says this is the time of year folks need those safety reminders while back on the water.
Make sure you're wearing the correct life jacket for your activity. You know, if you're swimming, boating, fishing, wakeboarding, things like that. Don't overestimate your swimming ability.
Although it is preached year after year, people continue to not wear their life jacket. But will you be arrested if you're caught by authorities not wearing it?
So federal law requires that there is a Coast Guard approved life jacket for each person on board a vessel, and Arkansas state law is children 12 years of age and younger are required to wear a life jacket. So while it's not illegal for someone, an adult, to forego wearing a life jacket, we do not recommend that because accidents can happen at any time. So we always recommend wearing a life jacket when on and near water.
So no, you won't be in handcuffs if you're caught without a life jacket, but Jimenez still highly recommends them.
It's definitely worth it. I mean, yes, they aren't fashionable, but for me, it's worth it for peace of mind for me and my family to know that we're safe.
Our question this morning comes from Shannon in Mayflower. Is Arkansas the worst state for seasonal allergies? Well, Shannon, that is a great question. It's that time of year where sneezing and watery eyes seem to affect us all. Allergy and asthma specialist Dr. Eddie Shields says his office is packed with patients.
April is the peak season for allergies. We've got the crossover between the tree pollen and the grass pollen. That's all in the air right now.
Dr. Shields says our environment here in the natural state is the perfect place for pollen to thrive. But depending on the year, we may not be the worst state.
Arkansas is always one of the top 10. So the southeast part of the country tends to have more allergens. We have longer pollinating seasons. We have shorter winters, so our springs, our summers, our falls tend to sort of run together.
And since we are currently in the thick of allergy season, Dr. Shields has some tips for those who continue to be affected.
You know, keep the windows shut in the house and in the car. If you have been outside during the day, make sure you shower, get all the pollen off of you. There are some very good over-the-counter medications. The nasal steroids like Flonase and Nasacort and Rhinocort are some of our most effective medicines.
Finally, since travel does pick up during the warmer months, always remember to take your medication with you on your trip.
You may walk into a hotel room that has a mold issue. Their pollinating seasons can be a little different from ours, and so I have people that travel that they survived our pollen season and now they head up north and they start to have issues because the trees are a little bit behind up there.
Our question this morning comes from Ronnie in Grady. What are the rules of bullfrog season I need to know about? Well, Ronnie, that is a great question. Here in Arkansas, we take pride in our hunting season. Deer and duck are known to all, but did you know we also have a bullfrog season?
A lot of people are familiar with frog legs, say on a seafood buffet or something like that, but you can go out and get your own.
Trey Reed with Arkansas Game and Fish says the limit is 18 frogs per day, or maybe the more appropriate term, 18 per night.
You're using a light to sort of stun the frog, get them to hold in place while you sneak up with the boat and either gig them with essentially a prong on a pole. A lot of people will just hand grab them too, you know, reach up and just grab them, throw them in a sack, but they are delicious. Good eating bullfrog.
If you and your friends decide to go, remember, it's not just frogs in and around the water.
You will definitely see some spiders and snakes out there. It's funny, you know, the eyes of the snakes and the spiders glow, and sometimes at a distance you're like, oh, there's a frog over there, and you get over close and you realize that's something you don't want to grab a hold of or stick with your gig. But yeah, you know, keep an eye out, obviously overhanging limbs, you know, if you're easing up under some trees and things like that. Just be aware and don't panic. Most of the snakes are probably harmless water snakes.
This one is from Phyllis in Carlisle. She says that she's traveling with her dog this week and asks, why are the fees different when flying with a pet? Phyllis, that's a great question.
The summer travel season has officially kicked off on this Memorial Day, but it's not just people who are taking to the skies.
We obviously love our pets and we want to take them from time to time on trips, and some of that may require air travel.
Shane Carter is the Public Affairs Director at Clinton National Airport. He says if you are traveling with your furry friend, make sure to check your airline for the pet fees.
Those policies often change among the different carriers, so you need to be very familiar with those and if any fees are required as you're making your travel plans.
Travelers are also required to keep their pets on a leash or in a carrier while at the airport.
You'll often see service animals who are working and also law enforcement canines who are here.
Finally, if your number one best friend needs to go number two, the airport has you covered.
We do have pet relief areas in our pre-security area, which is outside, and also in the concourse area past security. And those are available for use, but we also ask that you please pick up after your pet. So be just very careful and conscious of your fellow travelers.
Do I have to call 811 if I'm digging in my yard to plant a tree? Kylie, that's a great question.
Spring in Arkansas is the time for planting, but hang on a minute before you grab that shovel.
Definitely have to worry about it. It is a requirement.
Jamie Britton is the Damage Investigation Coordinator for Summit Utilities.
On any projects or planned projects such as installing a deck, a swimming pool, or even a mailbox, you are required to call Arkansas 811.
Even before you call Arkansas 811, there is a checklist to go over.
You are required by law to mark your proposed site in white. That will assist all of the company facilities to come out there and mark where their lines are.
It is so important to make sure you take these measures prior to digging, otherwise you risk cutting a line and then you're in real trouble.
To you and also your neighbor. I mean, you could strike a line and it could be harmful to you. Of course, there's some cost involved and there can also be some penalties and fines that you can be obligated to pay.
Well, Tracy, I don't do much outdoors at all, and I know you do quite a bit.
We do a lot.
This is a good question to answer and a good question asked to find out about the digging, because there's pipes and who knows what all under the ground.
There's the danger of it, there's the expense of it, and then just how it can actually not just affect you, but your neighbors.
Sure.
So lots going on with that, and it's always just good to know, I think, as well, if you just have an idea of where things are, if you start planting.
Yes, like a blueprint almost of underneath your property.
Right, because sometimes it makes sense and you can kind of, tell just from where things run from house to house, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
And that's why they have that phone number,
Exactly.
811. So yeah, never feel afraid to call.
Oh, it's such a great service.